Awesome. So I just want to start off by thanking you guys very much for joining us on this Saturday noon, morning, afternoon, depending on where you are. I'm here based in Dallas, Texas, so it's right at noon for me. And we're really excited to have you here with us today. We have a very exciting event, workshop titled Coding Bootcamp versus College. So if you have been kind of doing your research or even just kind of hearing from other people around, you've surely heard about the kind of coding bootcamp phenomenon and whether or not it's a plausible or feasible alternative to college. And that's what we're here to kind of, explore with you today. A lot of questions surrounding this topic. And throughout my presentation, I invite you guys, I urge you guys to ask as many questions as you possibly can. So don't be afraid to kind of interrupt me. You can interrupt me on your mic, in the chat. You can raise your hand using the Teams feature. The purpose of this workshop is to kind of inform you guys, as well as to, help answer all of your questions, right? So I really urge you to ask away, and don't be shy to unmute your mic. It's a pleasure to have all of you here with us today. And without further ado, I'm going to get started. Typically, we just like to start off by just kind of, breaking the ice and getting everyone kind of familiar, warmed up, and acclimated with each other, with us, with the workshop. And so, it's up to you. We like to do a quick intro. You don't have to unmute your mic. You can if you want, or you can put it in the chat. It's up to you, whatever you're comfortable with. Just a couple of questions I'm kind of interested to see for everyone here. Are you guys all new into the tech sector? Are you looking to get into tech? What's your situation there? Are you working in a different industry looking to transition? Do you know any coding so far? Do you know any languages? And if so, what language do you know? I'd be interested to see.
I don't mind going first. You want us to answer those questions?
Sure. Go ahead, Andy.
Cool, man. So I dabbled with JavaScript, HTML, CSS, some frameworks for it, like Node.js. So I did a little bit of more of the server side, backend stuff. And then just mainly tried to self-teach myself and did a few different courses, made a portfolio website, applied to a couple different jobs. And so life started life in me, got in the way. I had to focus on family, work, things of that nature, and just hobbies and things in the evening fell by the wayside. But I've always had in the back of my mind, the desire to find a job in tech, specifically in code. My profession is more in sales, though.
Cool. Awesome. So sounds like you have a decent amount of front-end experience, if that, from what it sounds like. Is that correct?
It's a little dated, but yeah, I think so.
Cool. Awesome. Pleasure to have you here, Andy. So we have Luke in the chat who says, I took a bootcamp a while ago, specialized in JavaScript, and just haven't managed to get my first job yet. I usually use React framework. Cool. So Luke, don't mind me asking, what course did you take at that bootcamp? Was it full stack web development? For those of you guys who are just now hopping in, we're doing some quick intros. So you can either unmute your mic and say it vocally to us live, or you can post in the chat. It's up to you. We're just talking about our experience. For you guys, are you new to tech, or is it something that you're already familiar with, and then you know any coding or any sort of tech skills right now already? Okay. So Luke says, Evolve U fast track full stack development program in Calgary. It got cut off by the beginning of the pandemic. Oh, okay, I see. Cool. Well, that's cool. I'm assuming everyone here is kind of looking to transition tech. And so that's perfect for you guys. So just to kind of I just kind of want a show of hands just to kind of get a feel for this. Like, how many of you are familiar with what coding boot camps are? You can either raise your hand or just put it in the chat or unmute your mic. It's up to you guys. Cool. So we have 1, 2. Cool. So I think 2 of you guys look like familiar with coding boot camps. Cool. So that's cool, guys. Let's get right into it then. For those of you who aren't familiar, I think it'll be really refreshing for you. And then we're just gonna kind of break down everything. And contrary to what you might think, this is not about why, like a million reasons why coding boot camps are better than college. It's really kind of contextualizing everything and allowing you to make the best possible decision that you can. And it really depends on the situation, guys. So it's not like a one size fits all answer. So I think you guys are going to enjoy this presentation. So without further ado, let's get started. I'm just going to share my screen. Cool. Let me share my screen here. Okay, can you all see my screen? Cool. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started, guys. So someone said they missed my introduction. Yeah, so Luke, for the introduction, so I'm FaZe. I'm the marketing person here at Skillsbystructure, one of the marketing people, I should say. We have a pretty small team. Oh, excuse me, sorry. Someone's waiting in the lobby. So yeah, I'm one of the marketing people at Skillsbystructure, and really the aim of this workshop is to kind of educate you guys and help you guys make good decisions on which course of action you want to take and which path you want to take. This is a huge decision financially and in terms of lifestyle and career. So we're not here to tell you that one is right or wrong and that one is necessarily better. It's always contextual. So yeah, that's basically a quick introduction about me and then also the presentation. So I will go ahead and continue. Cool. So do you need a college degree to get into tech? That's the big question here. So I just want to talk a little bit about what we do, right? So that'll give you some context. So before I get started, guys, I just want to mention that if you are interested in workshops like this and future ones, feel free to post your email in the chat and we'll keep you in our newsletter. You can unsubscribe at any time if you're not interested. This is really for you guys to keep you guys up to date on current future events, so you can always be in the loop. So anyways, Skillsbystructure at a glance. So Skillsbystructure, basically what we do is we provide intensive training to students, to allow people of all backgrounds to enter the technical workforce. So our courses are basically 12 to 20 weeks, intensive kind of bootcamp style, part-time though. So our courses are designed for the working person. We realize that not everyone has the luxury of being able to, put their life on pause and join like a full-time rigorous 40-hour per week bootcamp. So our course is really designed for people who are not able to do that. And we realize that's most people because if you look at most bootcamps out there, not only are they quite expensive, but a lot of them require you to kind of put your life on pause and just focus on the bootcamp. which is really not an ideal circumstance, right? Because we all have families, we have children, some of us, and for us to kind of put our life on pause and kind of almost go back to college for like 5 months, it's simply not practical a lot of the time, right? Um, and so, our training is focused on people from all backgrounds. So, we have kind of priced our training a bit more affordable than other boot camps for that reason, because we want to basically create um, a good entry point for everyone without having to kind of take loans and put yourself into a financial hole um, with like really expensive education. Our goal is to, educate you at a reasonable price point, and people from all backgrounds. So, we literally have people, I mean, it's amazing. We have like a lot of refugees. I think we have some people from the Afghan refugee um, uh, a group who came over to the U.S. recently. We have a lot of immigrants. A big part of our mission is to help women. So help women to have more of a representative authority in the tech sector. Um, and so our CEO, our founder, is a woman herself, and that was one of her primary motives, is that she wanted to help, a lot of immigrants, a lot of women, historically underrepresented people break into tech, in addition to everyone else. So it's really totally a very inclusive, welcoming community, right? Um, and so, sorry, I see someone in the question. A couple of people asking, is it a more private way? Absolutely. So if you guys want one more private way, I'm going to put my email in the chat, and you guys can feel free to shoot me an email, just letting me know that it's you. And so, um, yeah, shoot me an email, guys, and I'll add you to our newsletter, and you'll be in the loop for the future. Cool. So that's what we have here. So work to level the playing field for women, minorities, veterans, and all underrepresented communities. So veterans as well. We've had a lot of veteran students. We're approved to accept GI Bill benefits, and that's something that a lot of veterans have been able to take advantage of with us. And many of them have, had their training completely paid for. And we really love working with the veteran population. I mean, recently we had one of our veteran students, I think it was towards the end of last year, who finished our full stack web development program and then got placed into a job at Microsoft. We constantly have veterans coming through the door. So veterans are definitely one of our, I'm just curious, is anyone here a veteran? I'd be interested to know. Just post in the chat that, yeah, I'm a veteran. I'd be interested to know about that. But anyways, so that's a little bit about us, guys. If you have any questions about us, feel free to post in the chat or unmute your mic. It's up to you, and I'll more than happy to answer them. So I'm gonna go on ahead. So before we even talk about the whole bootcamp versus college argument, I kind of want to go into a very important topic, which is why even get into tech to begin with, right? So it's important to understand that tech talent is in high demand. So when we say tech, common industries, fields that we're talking about are things like web development, software engineering, software development, data science, data analytics, cybersecurity, app development, which is one of our newest programs. These are the types of fields that we're talking about, right? UX design is another one that we're actually working towards launching as well. And for the less technically savvy people, UX is actually a great option. And if you look across the board at all of these sort of industries and sectors, there's one thing that's kind of a common denominator among all of them, which is that people who excel at these skills are in extremely high demand, right? Big rewards. So this is in terms of we're talking about financially specifically for the most part. You have the potential to be compensated in a very, very good way. Starting out, you can start out at pretty much, it's really depends on your kind of skill set and your experience level when starting out. What do you have on your resume and kind of in your project portfolio that you can show to an employer? But even if you're starting out, let's say hypothetically, at like $60,000 a year, which for a lot of people actually would be quite good. Um, Even if you're starting out there, uh, the growth potential is like massive. It's certainly not uncommon to get to six figures, multiple six figures. Even I've even heard of people, especially on the West Coast, with like those big tech companies making like $1 to $3 million a year in tech. So depending on your experience level, your skill set, I mean, the compensation potential is like absolutely massive. Flexible work schedule. So Luke asks, excuse me, very good question. But so few people become exceptional in any field. That's what makes them exceptional. What if we never make it to that point? Yeah, so that's the really cool thing about tech, is that yes, there are those people who are exceptional, like the top 1% who make like 1 to 3 million a year. But the cool thing is that like even the tier right below that can make multiple six figures a year, right? So if you're talking about especially like companies on the West Coast, California, Seattle, Washington, excuse me, the potential to make multiple six figures, like 100 to 3,000, $500,000 or more, is certainly there. And you don't necessarily have to be in the top 1%. I think I was talking to one of my friends who's a full stack developer, or he's a front end developer mainly, but I think he has a little bit little bit of back end as well. He's telling me that even like the like middle tier of like software engineers are able to command like $300,000 a year for some of those West Coast companies, which is pretty crazy if you think about it, because there aren't really that many other industries that kind of work that way, right? So I hope that answers your question, Luke. If you have a follow-up question, let me know in the chat. So let's get back into it. So, excuse me one second. Okay, can you guys hear me? Sorry, I'm having an issue with my mic.
Yeah, we hear you, man. Yes, we hear you.
Cool. Okay. Let's get back into it. So we're talking about flexible work schedule, right? One of the things that a lot of people look for is a healthy work-life balance. So this is one thing that is definitely achievable with tech. I'm not saying that every position at every company is going to have good work-life balance, because within any industry, you're going to have cases where certain companies, certain positions, certain roles um, are very the workload is quite high, right? So I'm not here to tell you that you know it's the case across the board. What I am saying is that it's certainly achievable, right? So because COVID kind of really sped this up, but because technical skills really lead themselves to um, kind of being able to facilitate a more passive work environment. What I mean by that is that because like technically anyone can work a tech job from like the comfort of their own home, because as long as you have a computer, Wi-Fi, like you're good, right? And for that reason, the amount of opportunities that you kind of open yourself up to are tremendous, right? You can go the freelancing route, you can go the full-time job route, the contracting route, and entrepreneurial route. And within each of these kind of routes, you have opportunities to achieve terrific work-life balance, right? It's if that's something that you're kind of yearning for, you just want to be diligent in like the companies you kind of weed out, what positions you're kind of looking for, and so I would certainly, if you're going through when you're going through the interview process, ask questions about like how the work culture is, what the day-to-day schedule is like, things like that. So that'll give you a good idea of like what it's going to be like, right? So tech is needed in every industry. You really, if you look at any company, for the most part, they're going to have some techies, some tech people within the company. Even the smallest companies, tend to have a developer, an engineer, right? Whether it's to write the website code or program apps, whatever it might be, you tend to have one of those in pretty much every single company, right? And then job security. People in tech, because the demand for them is so high, there's also a lot of respect for people. Like one of my, talking to someone I knew who's also a front-end developer. He was telling me that the software engineers and developers in companies, they garner a lot of respect from the rest of the people within the organization. And what that means is that the company knows that these people, these employees, are very valuable, and they also know that they are not the only companies who are willing to employ them. They have a lot of potential opportunities if they went outside, and so companies are wary of that. And because of that, right, they don't necessarily want to overwork you and put you in a position where you don't want to remain with the company, because they know that they're not really in a position of leverage where they can kind of take advantage of you, right? So job security is another huge piece. So now that we've kind of talked about why you might want to get into tech, I think it's important to talk about the options you have, right? So I talked about some of the industries. And so, you're talking about front-end web developer, back-end web developer. I would also add in full stack web developer, software engineer, data analyst, data scientist, Android application developer, and so many more. You have a cybersecurity, so like a security analyst, an IT security analyst, security engineer, um, you know, um, software engineer, software developer. So there's just so many options. And if you kind of went in even deeper, you have like junior level, like mid level, and then senior level for like a lot of these positions as well, right? You have like Java engineer, you have like Python developer, JavaScript developer, React developer, .NET developer for C Sharp, right? So, I mean, it's really incredible how many options you really have. Okay, so now let's get into the juicy part of this entire presentation, which is university versus bootcamp. And I want to preface by saying that I mentioned this at the beginning. I just want to mention it again, just to kind of clear any misconceptions or confusion. We're not here to tell you that one is better than the other. We're here to help you make the best decision you possibly can. It depends on the situation, the circumstance, the context. And so we want to provide you with the information you need to make the best decision you possibly can. And we're always here to help you do that. Okay. So I want to talk a little bit about universities, right? Universities can certainly be expensive. And I think this is where a lot of people kind of meet their breaking point, right? Taking out loans, going into debt. These are things that are, quite dangerous, right? If we look at the student loan crisis in the U.S., it's a serious issue that seems like no one is really kind of talking about, right? Spending tens of thousands of dollars on a degree, if it's something you can afford. I did go to college, and I paid for myself throughout, and I was living with my parents, right? But that's not always a practical solution for a lot of people. Some people are coming from overseas. Some people can't live with their parents for whatever reason. So if they're paying for their own living expenses as well as going to school, it can be really, really tough. And sometimes, from their perspective, the only way they can do it is with, a student loan, right? And so it also requires you to take courses that you don't need to get into tech. So this is another huge one. So you're going to take things like English, history, biology, PE, subjects that are not going to contribute to your potential success in tech, right? And one might argue that you need to develop a well-rounded overall base of like knowledge and skills, regardless of what career path you're going into. And I'm not going to argue for or against that. But what I'm going to say is that college is not necessarily the only way to get that basic foundation of knowledge, whether it's history, English, biology. Um, I don't believe that college is the only way to get a hold of those subjects. Rather, if you look and kind of think back to your own, I'm not sure what a lot of your backgrounds are, but when I look back, right, when I took in college, when I took English, history, government, economics, all those classes, I really don't even remember a lot of what I learned in those classes today. It was so long ago. There was no effort to like revise or maintain that knowledge or those skills like over the long haul. And now, I mean, I don't even like when someone throws economics terms at me. I took macro and microeconomics, but I have no clue what they're talking about. I took history, government. Um, when it comes to government, I don't remember anything I learned back in 2013 when I took, government, right? Um, and so, they often require 4 years as well. So because of these courses that they're making you take, it just takes so much longer to graduate, right? If it was only you taking your course specific or degree specific courses that are going to help you get into tech, um, then that would be a much faster path of entry into tech. So I apologize, guys. I'm seeing now that there are a handful of questions in the chat. Let me go ahead and answer those. Andy asks, which prospect and possibility has the lowest barrier to entry or most approachable to bootcamp education versus college degree? So this is a very good question. I'm assuming by prospect or possibility, you're referring to which specific sector of tech. Is that correct? If that's the case. Okay, yes. So that's a good question. So I would say for the most part, our most popular course is full stack web development. It's probably the course that is the most beginner friendly. We're not saying it's easy. It's just that if you look at all of our courses, like relatively speaking, it's probably more beginner friendly than the other ones because you start from the very basics. The intro to data analytics one is similar. It also starts from the very basics. But if you're looking at some of our other courses like our Java and cloud computing, C# and Azure Cloud, cybersecurity, iOS app development, which is starting up very soon. These courses, certainly, we've had a number of beginners come in and take them, but it's not as common for beginners to come and take them. And then most approachable to a bootcamp education versus college degree. So when it comes to that, it really depends, right? So it depends what school you're going to. I think data science is a major that is relatively new at a lot of universities, from what I've seen. I know when I was going to college, I don't know if it was actually there. I could be wrong on that, so don't quote me on that. But I think it's a bit of a newer major in a lot of universities, data science. I know cybersecurity is one that a lot of colleges don't really have, and that I think I know a lot of community colleges that have like associate's degrees for that, and certifications are big in cybersecurity. So you can a lot of times get away with having tons of certifications and experience on your resume. And so when it comes to being most approachable to a bootcamp education versus college degree, it really depends. You can kind of make either one work in a lot of situations, depending on how you go about it. So it's tough to say which one is most approachable or applicable or suited to a bootcamp education versus a college degree. I hope that makes sense. I hope that answers your question, Andy. If I wasn't quite clear, feel free to post a follow-up question and I'll kind of try to explain it better. So Luke asks, I've heard that everyone starts as a front-end developer or full-stack developer. Only the senior devs get work on the back end. Is there truth to that? Hello, I'd like to return my degree for a refund. Don't worry. Okay. So yeah, the second comment, I feel you on the second comment. I did my master's, and to be honest, I don't feel like I got the value for the money that I should have, right? But anyways, that's a separate topic. I've heard that everyone starts as a front end. Yeah, so I think it depends really. Maybe at a lot of the bigger companies, like if you're talking about working for like the tech giants, um, that might be the case. I know that if you look at salary statistics online, um, if you look at a lot of the backend positions, backend developers tend to make a little bit more. So there could be something there with what you're saying. But I think it depends. Like if you're working for like example for like a startup or a much smaller company who wants you to kind of take on more responsibilities and duties and tasks, you might what you've said might not be the case, right? So I think it really depends on the company, the position, um, the job description. For example, for our software engineering courses, our Java and cloud computing, and then our C Sharp, those are primarily backend, right? So someone who is really kind of adept at Java or C Sharp is really a bit more suited to kind of take on a backend role, or at least to kind of focus a little bit more on the backend, right? So I would say there is some truth to that. But I don't think it's like a one size fits all answer, if that makes sense. I hope that answers your question, Luke. And then Luke asks again, if I'm already confident on the back end, would taking the data analytics course help me with the back end? Or excuse me, on the front end, my bad. So the data analytics course, so the intro course focuses on SQL, advanced Excel, and Power BI. So if you wanted to focus on the front end, the full stack would probably be the better option. The data analytics one is kind of more for people who are a bit resistant to get into coding per se. Not that there isn't coding involved, because there is, especially when you get to the advanced section of the course. So we have the intro to data analytics course, and then we have the advanced data analytics course, which is like a follow-up. And the advanced one does. So the advanced one, you go into like Python, machine learning, artificial intelligence. So that one will have more coding, right? So I would say if the front end is where you're kind of trying to patch up, the full stack web development course would probably be the best one, right? Oh, I apologize. You said you're confident in JS and React, need help on backend. Okay, so if you need help on the backend, I'm sorry about that. If you need help on the backend, full stack is still not a bad option. But a lot of times, when someone needs help on the backend, what we recommend is to do one of our software engineering courses, either our Java and cloud computing with Amazon Web Services, or C Sharp, .NET, and Azure Cloud, Microsoft Azure Cloud. And the reason for that is because those languages are kind of primarily geared a bit more towards the back end. And so if you already have front end knowledge, you can kind of patch up that deficiency by taking one of those courses. Those are really kind of in-depth hardcore classes on those specific languages along with the cloud computing. So for example, let's say you have knowledge, you said JS and React, let's say you also know HTML, CSS, JavaScript, you could certainly shore up the back end by taking the Java course, and then you'd have kind of a full stack kind of developer skill set, if that makes sense, right? So Andy asks, what you said makes sense. To expand upon what I was asking, based on what I've researched, there is still a stigma to some extent that a degree versus bootcamp education with employers. It seems to me that front end and full stack are more accepting of taking on individuals with bootcamp educations. So mainly what I was asking is, do you think that is accurate? Has the perception of bootcamp versus college changed to favor bootcamp grads more so than in the past? And if so, which stack or development track is more receptive to bootcamp grads? Okay, Andy, that thank you for kind of expounding upon your question. So to answer your first question, do you think that is accurate? So basically, do I think it's accurate that about the stigma, and then also that front end and full stack are more accepting of taking on individuals with bootcamp educations? So I think as long as there remains a debate about whether or not a boot camp is better than college or college is better than boot camp, there is going to be a stigma, right? Even though if you kind of look at the modern day work industry and how, um, especially tech, but even other industries as well, if you look at the shift, if you look at a lot of how a lot of the big companies have come out publicly and said they no longer require a degree. Even like a lot of the mid-sized and smaller companies, even like the company I work for right now. When I went through my interview, obviously I'm not in tech, I'm in marketing, but when I went through my interview, they didn't even ask me about my degree until like 30 minutes or so into the call, I think, my first call with them. And even then, it was like, they didn't really, they kind of talked about it for like 2 seconds or like a minute and then just moved on. They were like, oh, how'd you like your degree? I was like, yeah, it was good, but I didn't learn as much as I did from actually, you know, getting my hands dirty and doing actual work, you know? And I think, so if you look around, like people are starting to realize that the degree, like it's really about the skills, how you acquire those skills, is really up to you. So yes, I do think there's a stigma. I'm not going to sugarcoat it and lie to you. I do think there is a stigma. Um, I think the stigma is more prevalent in society, and I think it's not as prevalent in like amongst the companies, like their hiring process. But I think for certain companies, it will still be there. So, for example, if you look at job descriptions for some companies, some of them will kind of require that you have a degree. But what we um, are arguing in favor of is that there are so many opportunities where that's not the case. That even though there are some companies and positions where they do require you to have a degree, and there will be a stigma, there are like so many opportunities where it's the opposite, where they won't care, and that what they are going to care about is your skill set, your experience, what knowledge, what value do you bring to the table, right? Because I'm sure I've experienced this myself, and I'm sure you guys have as well. That I've worked alongside people who have like the paper credentials, but they just don't have the skill set. And like what use, kind of what value does that really bring, right? And I've seen people on the contrary. Like one instructor we have at Skillsbyre who hasn't taught for us recently, but who was with us most recently taught a course, I think like a year and a half ago, I think, if I'm not mistaken, or a year ago, I think. He out of high school went straight to a boot camp. He skipped college, went to a boot camp. And basically what he did was he cut out that entire like 3 years. He got into the workforce 3 years faster than people his age normally would have, right? And that's huge. And he was talking about how he's better at coding than a lot of the people he works with, and he's worked for multiple companies now. He lives abroad, and I know multiple people like that. I know one of my cousins. He dropped out of college, and he kind of went the self-education route, and he's now been working in tech since 2018, right? So he's also in a very good position. He's worked for Intuit, he's worked for big companies, or sorry, a big company, and so and then when it comes to front end and full stack being more accepting of taking on individuals with bootcamp educations, um, I would actually argue that cybersecurity might be the one that is more open. And the reason I would say that is because cybersecurity, getting a 4-year degree in cybersecurity is not as common. It's more common for people to get an associate's or certifications. Um, so I would argue that cybersecurity is probably the one that's maybe more accepting of taking on individuals with bootcamp educations. Although I would say that across the board, there is a shift. So I hope that makes sense. I hope that answers your question. So mainly what I was asking is, do you think that is accurate? To an extent, I think it's accurate. But when you look around, what you don't see is you don't see a bunch of people who go to boot camps and then like aren't able to find jobs. There certainly are people who have finished boot camps and who aren't able to find jobs, but it's not really the boot camp per se. It's more that they expected the boot camp to kind of, give them like the piggyback ride and kind of hold their hand like entirely, right? So when you join, for example, our programs, we don't give you like this sugar coated false promise that like it's going to be easy and that, we're going to do everything for you. Our students who have done well are the ones, we do everything we can, which is the instruction, the mentorship, the guidance, everything that we can possibly do, we do for you. But when it comes to like mastering the skills and owning your craft and becoming good at this, a lot of that is up to you, because you have to run with our instruction, the knowledge and skills we're teaching you, master it. Um, you're going to have to put in hours, additional study hours on the side as well. So we give you the tools, and you have access to us in terms of asking us for help and guidance for job searching, interviews, all that stuff. But when it comes to mastering your craft and becoming good at what you want to do, um, that's really where your work ethic, your hustle is really going to come in. And depending on how seriously you take it as a student, and how badly you want it, that's going to kind of determine, um, you know, whether or not you can be successful with a boot camp as opposed to a college degree. I hope that makes sense, Andy.
Yeah, man, it clears up a lot of, what I was asking. I'm of the mindset that technical degrees and, education, practical hands-on experience is good and more valuable, rather than taking basket weaving in college to try and achieve what you're seeking. So that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point, right? Because I think a lot of people they earn a degree for the sake of earning a degree. So like they get into college and they don't know what they want to do. So they're like, well, it's better for me to have a degree than not have one. So let me just study you know, um, like you said, basket weaving. I don't know if that's an actual major, but I wouldn't be surprised. So, it's really like being more methodical in your approach. I wouldn't agree with the notion that it's better to have a degree than no degree at all, because at least with no degree, if you don't know what you want to do, you saved yourself tens of thousands of dollars, or even figures sometimes, right?
There's a lot of people working at Starbucks, no shame in that, but they've got degrees and they're not using them.
Exactly. And so in that situation, was there a difference between the person who didn't get a degree and is working at Starbucks and the person who did? I would argue, not really, because I know people personally who majored in something, and after they finished, like they finished like 5-6 years ago, and now fast forward to today, they're not doing anything with that degree because they ended up not wanting to do that, and it's not like that degree is helping them get into other fields as well. Like that degree is almost went for naught, and it's kind of sad because they had to spend a lot of money to get it, but it's kind of the reality, which is that I think we have to be a bit more critical in how we approach this and think about whether or not we should get a degree. It really depends. Like I said, I'm not saying we're anti-degree or pro-degree. We want to help you make the best decision. If you have a full scholarship to get a degree in software engineering, it might make a lot more sense for you to just go and take that up, because they're paying for your education, and you should be able to develop the knowledge and skills to get into tech, right? On the contrary, if you're mid-career and you can't afford to spend tens of thousands or 4 years at a degree at a college, it might make a lot more sense to either go self-study, boot camp, things like that, right? So that's a great question, Andy, and I hope I was able to answer it to the best of my ability.
Absolutely.
Cool. And feel free to post any other questions throughout the chat if you have any. So it looks like we're good on the questions for now. So I will continue with the presentation. So let's see. So I think the last point here was that skills-based learning is critical for tech. So you can't, for example, if you go to a tech interview, there's no way you can fake it in your interview, right? Like when they present to you an algorithm or a question, and they're like, present to us the solution. I've had friends who, they have, I had one friend who he majored in accounting and he tried to switch. He's trying to switch to tech, and he's now made it. But when he first was doing it back a couple years back in 2020, he went to an interview for a company, and he kind of beefed up his resume in an unethical way, if you know what I mean. He was presented with a question, and he had a whiteboard, and they were like, do what you can. And he just, he wrote something that made no sense, and the interviewer, in like a couple seconds was like, next time, you apply for a job, don't lie on your resume, right? So you're going to become exposed if you lie on your resume or if you don't have the skills. So this is not, in some industries and fields in the job market, you can kind of, I guess, squeeze your way and finesse your way without really having much in terms of knowledge and skills. Um, Tech is not one of those, right? So if you don't have the skills, you are going to become exposed, and you cannot fake your way through it, right? So I kind of talked about a lot of this before, but I just want to go over it again. So Skillsbystructure, the syllabus allows for faster learning. We structure our courses to give you exactly what you need without a lot of the fluff. So our course structure is basically focused around primarily the technical stuff, no theory. So in college, you'll learn a lot of theory, and that'll be taking up a lot of your kind of coursework. We take out that. We take out all the theory, all the other courses that you don't need, and it's like basically how do we get you from zero to hero, whatever it is, software engineering, software developer, web development, as quickly and in as time efficient a manner as possible, right? I mentioned 12 to 20 weeks, depending on which course, and then part-time. So evenings and weekends is when all of our courses are held. And like I said, this is designed for the working person, right? Because if they're working during the day, that's not feasible window of time for them to be able to take courses during, right? So evenings and weekends is where we have our class time. Seasoned industry expert instructor. So all of our instructors are industry experts. Some of them, like I said, don't have degrees. Well, I know a couple of them who majored in something totally outside. I think one of them was like a poli-science major. Another one I think was like biology, and they ended up transitioning into tech. I know, like I said, the one example I gave of one of our instructors who didn't have a degree at all, who still doesn't have a degree, and they're doing amazingly well. And so we do have instructors with degrees as well. So I'm not making the case that, I'm not going to only present to you that side. We certainly do have instructors who have degrees. We have one instructor who I think she did her undergrad at University of Washington, and then she went on. I think she's doing her MBA right now, I think. So she's very bright, and she teaches multiple courses for us, data analytics and C#. And so I'm not gonna give you that picture that all of instructors don't have degrees, because some of them do. But they're all seasoned industry experts, and that's what matters. They all have the knowledge, the experience, the skills, the ability to mentor you and guide you in the direction you need to go, which is really what matters. 100% live instruction, so no pre-recorded videos. This is huge because, from my understanding, a lot of other boot camps, they will kind of give you a teacher assistant, a TA, and then a handful of pre-recorded videos, and kind of leave you to yourself. Self-educate. You have the TA. If you have any questions, but here's basically the videos are your learning resources, and you have to kind of have at it, right? That's not how we do it. So our courses, when I say evenings and weekends, that means they're live on evenings and weekends. So for example, if you had a class, some of our courses have classes on Saturday in the morning time. And so you would be on a live call with the instructor, with your classmates, learning live. And this is huge because you can ask questions live. You get the classroom experience, especially since the advent of COVID. Everything has kind of gone remote. So you get to actually be with your instructor live, with your classmates live, interact with people in the chat. And it's a world of difference when it comes to learning, because you don't have to wait on email responses for your questions. You don't have to worry about when you're explaining things, are they going to understand exactly what I'm trying to say? You have that live person who's there, who wants to help you and mentor you and guide you, and you don't have to kind of hold back, right? We welcome you to ask questions. The instructors are your resource, and we want them to be able to help you as best as they can. So flexibility. all sessions are recorded in case you miss a class. So every class session, just like this workshop, is recorded. So that if you miss a class, if you want to re-watch a class because you didn't understand it the first time, that's all possible for you, right? Which is huge because sometimes, for whatever reason, sometimes people are busy, they have something come up, they miss a class, and they need to catch up on it. So you never have to worry about that. The recordings are handed out to you, and you can watch them over as many times as you wish. Okay. So a little bit about our courses. So we have our full stack web development. This is the front and back end of web development. So HTML, CSS, JavaScript, React, and Python. These are the languages primarily that you would focus on. We have our data analytics and data science. So Excel, SQL, Power BI, like I mentioned. Python, machine learning, stats, predictive and prescriptive analytics. Software engineering with cloud computing. So like I also mentioned, Java, C#, Amazon Web Services, and Azure, Microsoft Azure Cloud, and then cybersecurity. And I would add to this, one of our newest courses that's coming up next month is iOS mobile app development, primarily using Swift. And that's huge because app development is an absolutely booming sector right now. So if you have any questions about any of these courses in particular, any specific questions, feel free to post in the chat, and I'm more than happy to elaborate on those. One thing, very, very happy to talk about this, which is a unique, kind of unique to us. I don't know if a lot of other, or any other, honestly, companies were able to kind of promise this. But for all of our courses, with the exception of cybersecurity, we have a guaranteed internship program. So basically, for anyone who completes our program, graduates from our program, you are at the very least guaranteed an internship. These can be paid or unpaid, depending on depending on a number of factors. I think recently this is a pretty new thing that we have kind of relationship we've developed. You'll be basically interning with a company, and this is a kind of excerpt we have from a student who's going through the internship right now. Mr. Habib, who's the CEO of the company, has been extremely helpful. He's very knowledgeable and cares for the new interns. We have 2 check-in meetings per week, and he gives us time to complete our assigned tasks, right? So the internship is huge because you're now taking the skills that you learned in the course. You're adding valuable experience to your resume, which is huge. You're developing your knowledge and skills and actually fine-tuning them by using them in a real-world setting, which is really what you need, real life on-the-job experience, as it says. And you are potentially getting, assuming you do well, a professional recommendation to help you secure your next apprenticeship, internship, or job opportunity. So I think it's important that when you go through a boot camp, it's important not to have these expectations that you're going to go from 0 to senior developer at Microsoft like overnight. That's not really how it works. Take the little wins as they come. Like when you're in the course, your goal is to, master the course, finish the course, graduate, finish your assignments, your homework, your projects, all that. Once you're done with that, like if you don't reach, the job title right at the gate that you envisioned, settle for something smaller and build your way up. The biggest thing is getting that first internship or job, right? That's the biggest thing, because once you commit to the process and you get your foot into the door, from that point onward, as long as you kind of hustle and grind and put in the work on your end, you are bound to climb the ladder over time and eventually get to where you want to get. So we do have people, for example, the person I mentioned, the veteran guy who was able to land a job at Microsoft after finishing the course, but that's not really the norm, right? That's not something that every student really gets to do. And even if you look at his story, we have his testimonial on our website. His name is Agilon. I invite you to kind of check out his story. I'll post his name in the chat, and I'll also post kind of some of our testimonials. But if you look at that, he worked really hard, right? So he was doing a lot of work outside of like he was taking the instruction that we gave him, the knowledge, the resources. He was building tons of projects on the side. He was hustling and grinding and working super hard, applying for jobs left and right, and he was rewarded for his hustle, right? And so if you want to do that, you're gonna have to put in the work that's like commensurate with that level, right? I mean, working at Microsoft right out the gate is not easy. And even if you don't get there, that doesn't mean you can't get there. You certainly can get there. You just might have to take smaller steps to get there, right? So if you're starting out at 60K, I would consider that huge achievement, huge accomplishment, right? Um, so guaranteed internship program is huge because it's literally 100% guarantee, which is something that even the big boot camps, who say that you can pay after you're hired, um, it's not really a job guarantee per se. It's more, they're allowing you to pay after you get hired. But if you don't get hired, or if something happens that you're not able to find an opportunity, then that's not really on them. Whereas with us, we're guaranteeing you this internship for all of our courses except for cybersecurity, right?
My name is LJ Norton. I came to Skillsbased from January to May, and
So mentorship and guidance. Okay, so Amanda says this was great information. I'm sorry I have to leave now. Thanks, FaZe. I emailed you. Awesome. Yeah, thanks for joining us, Amanda. And I will look at your email as soon as this workshop is over. So mentorship and guidance. So this is a huge piece of our courses. LinkedIn, resume, interview skills, job search support. This is kind of the missing piece that you don't get when you go the self-study route. And even, unfortunately, at some universities, they don't really give you this to the extent that you want it as well. So optimizing your LinkedIn profile, building out your resume, fine-tuning your interview skills, actually going out and looking for a job. These are, this is like what you want, right? Of course, learning the skills is super important. But once you're done, I mean, ultimately, your goal is to get a new job, right? Your goal is not just to learn a bunch of skills and then move on. Your goal is to have these skills impact your career, have it impact your earning potential, get a new job, get a new position at your current company, upskill, right? And so we help you with that. Our career development team works relentlessly to find opportunities for students. We have Terry, who is one of members of our team, who is constantly working with students, scouring the market for opportunities, helping students link up with different potential matches. And we've helped countless students launch their career into tech, right? Like I said before, it's not like every single one of our students gets into Google and Microsoft. We have students who are working there now, but to get there right out of the gate, a lot of times it's just not practical, right? But our goal is not to get you into Google the day after you graduate. Our goal is to get you wins one after the other. Graduate from the course, get an internship, get into your entry-level job as a junior web developer, a junior data analyst. Fine-tune your skills, build and build and build and grow. And over time, within 1 to 5 years, you could see a huge growth. You could have climbed that ladder significantly, right? Anwar Hussein, one of our instructors, he once said that I always tell my students, once you're my student, you're always my student. And that's literally the way that we view our students, is that when you come in through our doors, it's a huge responsibility on our part, but we're so glad that you're now trusting us to help you get into tech. It's an honor, and it's something that we don't take lightly, right? The ability to teach you, mentor you, and then help you get into tech is something that we're very honored to take on. I mean, you're trusting us to do that, and we want to reward that trust by helping you, put you into the best possible position to succeed that we possibly can, right? So I want to talk a little bit about you can't afford to quit your job, and I touched on this as well. Our courses are designed for working professionals, part-time, evenings and weekends. I talked about the recorded lectures. And if you need help outside of class, you can always reach out to your instructor. So basically, any wall or barrier or roadblock that would come up as a result of having a full-time job, we have gone ahead and taken the steps to create a solution for that, right? So Andy says, can you expand upon the typical hours in the evenings and weekends? Yes, great question. So depending on the course, so I know, for example, our Java and cloud computing and our C# and cloud computing, those courses, if I'm not mistaken, are Wednesdays and Saturdays from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. on Wednesday. And then Saturday, 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. And when I say these times, guys, these are all Pacific time. So this is all West Coast time. So Wednesday, 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. And then Saturday, 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. For the other courses, there are more hours involved. They have you have lab hours for the other courses like full stack web development, data analytics. These courses have lab hours in addition to the classroom hours. So I believe it's Monday through Thursday for those courses, as well as Saturday. And I believe the hours are the same. I believe it's 6 p.m. to 9 p.m., 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. I would have to double check with one of our higher ups to make sure, because sometimes they alter the structure depending on how the students, in terms of the timing, sometimes they have altered the timings to suit the student schedule. So I don't want to tell you something that's not true. What I would urge you is that definitely speak with one of our course correspondents, and she can give you more details on the specifics of the structure. So typically what that will look like is like on the evenings, Monday through Thursday, let's say you're doing 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. You'll have class for 1 or 2 hours and then lab for 1 or 2 hours. And then the same thing through Thursday. And then Saturday, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, is fully lab. So the labs, basically the instruction time is basically to, teach you the skills, the concepts, the knowledge. And the lab is really to help you fine tune and, master those skills. So it's like you're ironing out everything. So it's like the instruction, you're absorbing it, the lab, you're implementing it and like getting acclimated and familiar with everything and mastering it, right? So I hope that answers your question, Andy. And if you do have any further questions, so roughly 3 hours on Saturday, 3 hours every weekday, right? Yes, except for Friday. So Monday through Thursday, and that's for cybersecurity, data analytics, and full stack web development. If you're talking about Java and cloud computing and C# and Azure Cloud, those are only 6 hours a week. So C# and Java are only Wednesday and Saturday. So that one is only 6 hours a week. Cool. Yeah. If you have any questions about more specifics, I invite you to, I'm going to enter some contact info into the chat that you guys can use to book a meeting with us, a free meeting with us, or reach out to one of our, someone who can help you out with more info on the courses. So how does Skillsbystructure compare with other coding boot camps? We already talked about the flexibility in terms of schedule, designed for the working professional, more affordable. So this is a huge one. Our courses range anywhere from about $3,000 to I believe $7,000 for the entirety of each course. Depending on which course you want to take, it's typically somewhere within that range, 3,000 to 7 or 8,000, I believe. And if you look around at other coding boot camps, it's not uncommon to see 10,000 plus, 15,000. I think I've even seen like 20,000. So we are proud to say that we are significantly more affordable. And this is something that we have done, like I said at the beginning, because we want to create for you a path of less resistance to getting into tech. We don't believe that it should cost you an arm and a leg, tens of thousands of dollars, taking out loans and going to debt, right? Because that's really no different than college, right? If you're doing the same thing for a boot camp that you have to do in college, I mean, is it really that much of an advantage, right? So the affordability factor is huge. We have different scholarships, discounts. Like I said, a lot of veterans, because their GI Bill, get their entire training paid for. So with different scholarships, discounts, you might be eligible for scholarship as well. So that's something that if you are interested in, I'll put our contact info in the chat, and you can reach out to our career services team, and they can tell you how you can go about applying for a scholarship. flexible payment plans and options. So I talked about discounts just now. We also have monthly payment plans. We have structures in place, and once you get on a call with one of our people, you know, we want to create a plan that works for you as well as for us, right? So we have students who are able to pay everything up front. We have students who are not able to, and we create a monthly plan, a structure that works for them. So depending on your unique situation, that's why we invite you to get on a call with us, because we have made it work for a lot of students who genuinely thought that they would not be able to afford it, and we were able to create a payment structure that was feasible for them as well as for us. So that's what I really want to emphasize, guys, is that we want to work with you, and we want to create a plan that works for both of us. And we urge you to get on a call with us, because that's the only way that we can figure out your situation, offer a solution, and kind of propose a payment structure that would work, right? And then individual attention. So our classroom sizes are not as big as other boot camps. And like I mentioned, they're live instruction. And so when you combine those two things, the result is that you have more undivided individual attention at our school than you would at other places, right? You have the instructor's attention live, and you don't have to deal with like 30 other people in the class that you have to like kind of compete against and shove through just to have your question answered, right? So how do you know if tech is for you? I highly recommend that you test the waters with free courses, YouTube videos, etc. Freecodecamp.org is a good one. Codecademy, I think, is another good one. I know Udemy, I think, has some courses as well. Don't be afraid to invest some time and experiment. The only way you're going to know is like if this is something that you are going to want to do for the long run is by taking the courage to experiment and test the waters, right? Whether it's data analytics, web development, software engineering, take some free courses and have at it. Not only will it help you develop some skills in the short term, it's going to help you figure out for free whether or not this is something that you actually want to do. Persistence and curiosity are key. So by curiosity, what I mean is that don't be afraid, right? So let's say you want to do full stack web development, right? Take a course on that. And then after that, if you don't like it, don't be afraid to try other things. Don't be afraid to try software engineering courses, back-end development courses, cybersecurity courses, data analytics courses. And then persistence. The only way you're going to be successful in this is persistence. If you sign up for our course and you're struggling at the beginning and you drop out because you're not able to, debug your code properly or whatever it is, you're only harming yourself. You're going to fail along the way. You're going to run into roadblocks. You're going to have bumps. But that's where the reward, the opportunity is, right? Because all those people who get weeded out because they're not willing to kind of be persistent and put in the work and, really push through when it's really difficult mentally as well as in terms of your effort and your time, those people are going to get weeded out because they don't have what it takes to get in. So that's an opportunity for you, right? Like we said at the beginning, it's not easy to get into tech. Our courses are not necessarily easy. We're not promising an easy, 12-week, once 12 weeks is done, you're going to go from 0 to hero without any work whatsoever. That's not how it works. How it works is that we give you all the tools, the resources you need, the mentorship, the guidance, and we expect you to put in, 150% of effort. And if you're not willing to do that, we would never recommend a student to come into our program who's not willing to put in the work. We will do everything we can to help you. We expect that you do the same thing for yourself. You need to help yourself as well. And without further ado, guys, I think that's pretty much wraps up my portion of the presentation. I just want to thank you guys very much. And now is like the best part, which is just open Q&A. So let me just open up my camera. Cool. Yeah, guys. So now it's literally just open Q&A. And I invite you guys to ask as many questions as you wish. I'm here as long as you guys want me to be. Feel free to ask away. And I'm going to post some of our contact info in the chat so that you guys can, book free meetings with us or email us directly. It's up to you guys. So I'm going to quickly post that in the chat. And in the meantime, feel free to post any question in the chat or unmute your mic and ask away. Okay. So I posted the link to booking a free meeting, a free call with us. I'm also going to enter once again my email and then my CEO's email. You can email her directly as well. And then our general Skillsbased email as well. Cool. And you guys can also feel free. Let me drop my LinkedIn link. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn, guys. Any questions, guys? This is a terrific opportunity for you guys to kind of ask away as you wish. So definitely take advantage if you guys have anything on your mind.
I have a question for you about the internship. Could you expand upon how long it is, if it's mandatory, if it's required? For instance, if you started an internship that the institution organized for you, would you then be required to finish it based on some sort of contract if you found another job, or how does that work?
Oh, yeah, that's a good question. So there are no obligations involved surrounding the internship. You're not obligated to do the internship, nor are you obligated to complete it. So let's say, for example, you finish the course and you land a job that you want to take up immediately. There's no obligation to complete the internship. If you are halfway through the internship and you get a new job, there's no obligation. The internship really is designed to help you guys out. It's not for our benefit per se. It's not necessarily part of the course. It's like the aftermath of the course, basically. So even if you finish and you don't get a new job offer and you just don't want to do the internship, that's also completely fine. It's really up to you. We have that there because we want to provide our students with the baseline of work, like a baseline that they know that they're going to get guaranteed, so that when they finish the course, they're not thinking like, man, how am I going to find something to do? How am I going to put these skills to use? How am I going to develop my resume? We have that kind of taken care of for you. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. There's no obligation there. It's really it's to help you out. And if you don't feel like you need that, or you don't even want that for whatever reason, you can forego that, and that's up to you completely.
Okay, cool. How many hours per day or per week would you say it takes to be successful? I mean, you expand upon the minimum, which is 3 throughout the week, and then 3 on the weekend on Saturday. But beyond that, what would you say it takes?
Yeah, so that's another really good question, and that's a question that it's going to vary a lot depending on the person. If you're able to pick everything up faster and it comes more easily and more naturally to you, probably not as much, although you will still have to put in some work. If it's more of a struggle for you, for example, one of our instructors up here, he's now at Microsoft, and when he was starting out getting into tech, he went the bootcamp route as well, and he said that it was so hard for him at first. He had he was like, the people around him, from what he said, were like picking up all the concepts like super easily, and he was really struggling. And the only way he was able to do it was to just go to the lab, like the boot camp he was at, and just like from morning to evening, just like code. You know, basically he was doing like a 9 to 5 as like his education, right?
Gotcha.
And so for some people, I mean, that's going to be what it takes, right? It's really about having the mentality that you're going to do everything it takes to get there, regardless of how difficult that might be. That's really when we talk about persistence, that's really kind of the key differentiating factor between people who we've found to be successful, people who aren't as successful. Because we have a lot of students who, not a lot, I would say, but we have some students who kind of think that when they're getting into this program, they're getting like a hand-holding kind of process where we're going to do everything for them, and that the onus is on us 100%, and that, you know, there's no kind of accountability factor for them, which is not true at all, right? This is not an easy course, these courses are not easy, as I've mentioned. Ultimately, like I said, you know, the people who do the best in our programs are the ones who take a lot of initiative and who go above and beyond. So, you know, they're taking the training with us, and then they're constantly hustling on the side, building new projects, building up their GitHub profile, their portfolio, looking for new jobs. You know, I think Agilon, the guy I mentioned who was now at Microsoft, I believe he applied at like an insane number of jobs. I think he was just applying left and right, just constantly, and building out new projects. So he was really just hustling and going after it. And that's the mentality you really want to have, because when you have that mentality of persistence, you're bound to hit success. Whether or not you hit it immediately is, you know, that remains to be seen, but you're bound to hit success at some point as long as you just keep pushing, right? So if you kind of throw in the towel and give up when things get tough, you were kind of bound to fail from the start, right? So in terms of the time, it's really difficult to say. Some people might have to put in tons and tons of extra hours. Some people might have to not put in as many, depending on their prior skill set, depending on how quickly they pick up the skills, depending on a lot of factors. So, you know, we have the evening weekend structure so that it's convenient for people, like while they're in class, but while they're outside, you know, it's really up to the student. And, you know, we give you the assignments and the homeworks and everything to help you. But if you're struggling, you know, we welcome you to, you know, take advantage of the lab hours, you know, really hone in on the homework assignments, do extra projects, do things like that. So I hope that answers your question.
It does, yeah.
Cool. So I put my LinkedIn profile. I'm sorry, go ahead, Andy.
I was going to say that's really about all I had. I really appreciated the time you took today to do the presentation. I do have to hop off myself, but I've written down and recorded, you know, pretty much everything that you dropped into the chat. So I hope to be reaching out to you guys soon. You have a good day, man.
Cool, Andy. It was a pleasure to have you here. Yeah, likewise, it was a pleasure to present to you guys. I put my LinkedIn in the chat, guys. I put all of our emails for all of our team members in the chat, our meeting link for free, booking a free meeting with us. If you haven't already, guys, I urge you to put your email into the chat. If you don't want to put it in the chat, you can email me directly. And this is just to add you to our newsletter, and you'll be up to date on all future events, just like this one. I know we have a workshop next weekend. That one's on iOS mobile app development, so that's a huge kind of juicy topic. Yeah, guys, it was a pleasure to present to you guys here today, and I hope you guys have an amazing Saturday. And you know, I'll still be here. If you have any questions, post in the chat or email me. I'll still be here. So thanks a lot, guys, and I hope you have an amazing weekend.
Take care.
Oh, thank you so much. See you. Have a good day.
Thank you.